Hi, friends, it's Will, and I'm here with a new tarot exercise that I have been using. And someone else could also have invented it, but I haven't seen it anywhere. As far as I know, I came up with this. Um, so you're going to take your deck. You've got your whole deck here. And this is, again, like a game, right? That you're going to sort of play with yourself. It's sort of a storytelling game, but less about making up a narrative and more about finding connections that you haven't been able to see before. And so you can use it with any deck, obviously. I think it's particularly good, like if you're trying to learn a new deck or just, I guess if you're just learning tarot, it can be really great to use. I like it anyway. So take your deck. What you're going to do is you're going to pull one card, okay? And that's your kind of focus card, all right? And then you're going to lay out a spread of 3 cards underneath it. And your job is to determine what do they have in common, right? Your focus card, make up a little story that explains what these 3 cards on the bottom have to do or how they connect to your focus card. Okay, let me give you a few examples. And I have the Fyodor Pavlov tarot here. So, Page of Swords. We've got Page of Swords up here, right? So now we're going to lay out 3 cards, and somehow we have to figure out how the 3 cards we've laid out explain the Page of Swords, right? So, and this can be tricky sometimes. Sometimes it's easy, other times not. So, Temperance, 2 coins, Ace of Coins. So, how are Temperance, 2 of Coins, and the Ace of Coins like the Page of Swords? Well, we could say the Page of Swords, sometimes they're just like pouring things back and forth, right? They've got their sword up in the air. Are they going to strike or are they not? Are they going to hold the sword or are they going to attack, right? And instead of acting, right, the Page of Swords, kind of like temperance pouring their water, is just sort of hemming and hawing, right? They're very patient, but are they actually doing anything? Thinking, maybe, right? But not actually acting. So that would be one connection that I can see, that I could make, right? 2 of Coins, this is about finding balance. Sometimes in other decks, it's more about juggling, it's about not falling over. The Page of Swords, sometimes we might think that sword is too big for that page, right? They're too inexperienced, they're untested, they're naive, they don't really know what they're doing completely. They're learning, but they're not a knight, they're not a queen, they're not a king. So, should they be using a smaller sword? Are they going to fall over, right? So, are they sort of too big for their britches in a sense with their swordliness, right? Like, for example, do they think they're the smartest person in the room? And then someone's going to come along and show them that they're not. And so the balancing act that they were trying to carry off by over compensating with their intellect, right, is going to have them falling over, right? Maybe they can't hold up the act, the performance any longer, right? Uh, Ace of Coin. How is an Ace of Coins like the Page of Swords? Well, we could connect it to the 2 of Coins, right? They drop their item, so to speak. So that would be one way of looking at it. We could also just think of pages and aces as both representing new beginnings, right? And so that's an overlap. That's something that they have in common, that these cards have in common. Let's do another one. Let's just put these aside. I'm not even going to shuffle. Let's do 5 of Swords. And we are going to find connections between the 5 of Swords and whatever these 3 cards are. The Hanged One, the Hanged Man, number 12 of the majors. Knight of Coins. How is the Knight of Coins like the Five of Swords? And Seven Cups. How is the Five of Swords like Seven Cups? This is tricky. Okay, so it's like a game, right? You got to be creative. And sometimes the hand you're dealt is tough. If you need to go to a book and or a website or whatever and try to look for other meanings, of course you can do that. As you get more experienced, I'd say try to just play. Try to just like pretend you're a child and you're making up a story, and your job in this layout is to say how this is like those. So how is the Hanged Man like the Five of Swords? Well, the first thing that comes to mind for me is this Five of Swords person has done something I think that maybe they're not very proud of, right? And so now they have a new perspective on it. And the Hanged Man, one interpretation of the Hanged Man, because they're upside down, they are seeing things differently now, right? So before the Five of Swords figure here, the big one, did whatever he did to make these two people walk away, he probably thought it was the right thing to do. Or maybe it was, in the moment, he believed he was doing the right thing. And after it's over, his perspective has changed, very much like the Hanged Man has a different perspective. So that would be one thing. What about with the Knight of Coins? Well, I see the Knight of Coins as someone who is taking action in a practical matter. They're sitting down there looking forward. They move very slowly, but they get the job done anyways. Sometimes they can be lazy. Sometimes there's just too much inertia. So let's go with that. Maybe what's happened here is not so much what the Five of Swords figure has done, right? But maybe it's what they haven't done. Maybe we could think of through an act, through not acting, through not doing something, they have let down these two people. They've caused a conflict in their group through maybe it was laziness or boredom. All those I sometimes associate with the Knight of Coins, right? Especially when the card is reversed, right? Like if we were to reverse the card, we could do that. And so maybe the issue here is not so much that this person like attacked, like took an action, but they didn't take an action, but they still ended up in a Five of Swords situation where the other people around them feel let down or hurt or defeated or disappointed, right? And it doesn't seem like it's fair, okay? What about Seven Cups? How are Five Swords like Seven Cups? And so here I would think of the idea that with Seven Cups, there is a fantasy involved, right? All of this smoke, these clouds are covering up reality of what really exists, what's really there. And instead we see, it looks like we have all these choices with these cups, but what's behind the cups is a cloud, and what's behind the cloud we don't really know. We're confused. We're behaving based on things that aren't really true. And so maybe that's what's happened in the Five of Swords situation. The Five of Swords person could have hurt these other people, engaged in a conflict, or felt like they were entitled to do something that hurt these other two people because they were acting based on a fantasy rather than acting on what was actually existing in reality. Okay. We could, if we wanted to, string these all together into a single story. And you could lay out more than 3 cards or fewer than 3 cards if you wanted to. But this is the way I've been doing it, and it's been working really well for me. So that's it. That's the exercise. You lay out 1 card, you think about it a minute, you lay out 3 more, and you say, how do each of these cards explain or connect to or make sense in terms of my 1 focus card? You can go through the whole deck this way. It would take you some time, but it's a lot of fun to do. When you get a new deck, this is a great way to break in the deck, to learn about the deck, to use the deck without actually having to come up with questions and do readings. And it's just play, it's just fun, and I think you'll have a good time. So give it a try. Let me know in the comments if you do this or you do something similar to this. I'd love to hear about it. Please consider liking and subscribing too to help me grow the channel. I'd really appreciate it. And I will leave it there. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.